when you find yourself, when you audit your time, and you see that you're spending a lot of time firefighting, that's when you say, you know what, I shouldn't be fighting the fires. Can I go, what do I need to go to quadrant 2? If I'm spending too much time in quadrant 1 activity, right, that's a problem, right? I can't be thinking 6 months, 9 months, 1 year, 2 years ahead, or 5 years ahead. I'm always thinking about tomorrow. And that's what, I do that twice a year with my time, right? Once in summer and once, in the Christmas break. That's when it's a good time to, reevaluate and say, where am I spending my time and what do I need to do different? What to start doing, what to stop doing, what to continue doing, right? And that's when we're like, okay, we need to do this and read as much. And that's a good time for me to read a lot as well, right?
Yeah.
So
it's great to build in those investment blocks for yourself and think that way. But so that's pretty interesting. The growth stage, feeling that growth stage, what do you think Gov2Biz is going to look like in, let's say, 3 years?
I would say that's a great question. I've never thought about it that way. I mean, in my mind, yes, but never put it out in words. But I would say we would be at least about 100 to 150 people in size. But my focus is not just on the staff itself. The processes mean that my revenue per employee goes up. That means for people, it is a much more rewarding place to work and have a larger market presence. And what that is, we have a few plans about revenue targets and markets that we are trying to penetrate. But that's where I would see us about 3 years from now.
Yeah, and I would imagine, based on the way that you're approaching the business, it will feel more like you mentioned fires. You move from fires to foundation to future, and until you get through stopping working on the fires all the time and moving to foundational strategic implementations, where your initiatives they're getting to the root cause. Then it makes it really hard to look at the future, right? I mean, so it feels exactly right. You guys are moving in the right progression. Sounds great.
Preventing problems rather than solving them. I think that's where it is.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so Karthik, we've talked a lot about Gov2Biz, your process, everything you've gone through. Now I'm curious about, let's turn this around to other founders. And let's think about, if I'm interested in working in government entities, I'd love to get a feel for, how do you do it? Is it a good space? Do you love government shutdowns? The challenges of, and the pros and cons of working with government. Is that something that more companies should be thinking about, how they start to work in that space?
Yeah. Sure. So government in itself, government technology, it often gets a bad rap. Government itself gets a bad rap. But I've met, and I've worked with some of the hardest working people, and for sometimes next to nothing compensation. The same thing they will be making twice or maybe even 3 times in the private sector, but they are incredibly hardworking. So it often gets a bad rap, and it makes me feel bad whenever I hear those things. Right? There are some bad apples, but that happens in the private sector too. But as the government sector itself, GovTech technology sector, it's a great space. It's a great space to work, but it is a marathon. It's not a sprint, right? You're trying to you have to be patient. You have to learn that there are everything that you think you know about processes, about selling, or about growth. Sometimes in an inverse when it comes to the government, right? There is a lot of hurry up and wait, and there is a lot of boxes that need to be checked, a lot of things that you simply cannot do, right? You can't simply meet. I mean, there is an entire procurement process, which is a major activity in governments, and you just have to work around it. And there are seasons, whereas in private sector, it's often, when the need is there, they can procure and they can acquire something. You can do sales, you can grow, right? But when it comes to governments, no, you have to work around the legislative cycles. You have to work around the budgetary cycles. And sometimes those are 2-year cycles. So you might have just missed the boat. And so that is the case. And they might be willing to innovate. They are even wanting to innovate, but generally the biggest thing is risk aversion, right? Their biggest fear oftentimes is, as a vendor, any agents, any company can promise everything, right? Everybody does. Everybody's product is better than the best things in sliced bread, or even better, right?
Sure.
But then what they are trying to do oftentimes is they are not spending their own money. They are spending the citizens' money. So they have to be super cautious and super transparent about it, right? That means if something goes sideways, right, the impact is much more than we just lost money.